Lisa Washington sat in the corner booth of the small coffee shop on 5th Street in Austin, Texas. Her laptop screen glowed softly as she typed her weekly report for the Veterans Administration. She had been coming to this same spot every Tuesday morning for 6 months now. The coffee was good, and the Wi-Fi was reliable. Most importantly, it was quiet. The morning sun streamed through the large windows, casting warm light across her table. Lisa wore simple jeans and a navy blue sweater. Her military bearing was still evident in the way she sat straight and kept her surroundings in view. 3 years had passed since she left the army, but old habits died hard. She paused her typing and rubbed her temples. The headaches had been getting worse lately. Sometimes she heard strange buzzing sounds that no one else seemed to notice. Her laptop screen flickered occasionally, showing symbols that disappeared when she looked directly at them. The doctors at the VA hospital said it was stress from her deployment. Lisa wasn't so sure. The bell above the door chimed as 2 police officers entered. Detective Maria Santos was a 15-year veteran of the Austin Police Department. She moved with confidence, her hand resting casually on her belt. Behind her walked Officer Jake Miller, younger and less experienced but eager to prove himself. They approached the counter where the barista, a college student named Tim, looked nervous. Santos showed her badge and spoke in a low voice. Tim glanced over at Lisa's table and nodded. Lisa watched the exchange but continued typing. She had done nothing wrong. Santos walked over to Lisa's table with Miller following close behind. Lisa looked up from her laptop with calm eyes. She had learned long ago that staying calm was always the best approach with law enforcement. "Ma'am, we've received a complaint about someone loitering in this establishment," Santos said. "Can I see some identification?" Lisa reached slowly into her purse and pulled out her driver's license and military ID. "I'm a regular customer here. I come in every Tuesday morning." Santos examined the IDs carefully. The military card showed Lisa's rank as commander and listed multiple deployments overseas. Her record was spotless. Miller shifted uncomfortably behind his partner. "The complaint says you've been here for several hours acting suspiciously," Santos continued. "I've been here for 45 minutes, Lisa replied calmly. "I ordered a coffee and a muffin. I'm working on my laptop." Tim, the barista, heard the conversation and approached hesitantly. "Actually, she's telling the truth. She comes in every week. Same order, same table. She's never caused any, trouble." Santos ignored the barista and focused on Lisa. "We're going to need you to come with us for questioning." Lisa felt the familiar flutter of electronic interference around her. Her laptop screen flickered again, and the coffee shop's Wi-Fi router on the wall behind her started blinking rapidly. The cash register at the counter made a soft beeping sound. "On what charges?" Lisa asked. "Loitering and suspicious behavior," Miller said, speaking for the first time. Lisa knew this was wrong, but she also knew that arguing would only make things worse. She had seen too many situations like this escalate unnecessarily. She closed her laptop and gathered her things. "I'm cooperating fully," she said clearly, making sure other customers could hear her. Santos produced handcuffs, which caused several customers to look up from their phones and newspapers. The morning crowd watched as Lisa was cuffed behind her back. She didn't resist or protest. Her military training had taught her when to fight and when to wait for a better opportunity. As they led her toward the door, Lisa's headache intensified. The electronic interference grew stronger. Every device in the coffee shop began acting strangely. Cell phones lost signal, the espresso machine sparked, and the overhead lights flickered in rapid succession. Tim watched in amazement as his tablet computer displayed symbols he had never seen before. They looked almost like a language, but not from any country he knew. The symbols pulsed with a soft blue light before disappearing completely. Outside, Lisa was placed in the back of the patrol car. As they drove toward the station, she stared out the window at the familiar streets of Austin. Something was happening to her, something she didn't understand. The headaches, the electronic glitches, the strange symbols on her laptop screen, they were all connected somehow. Miller radioed their location to dispatch while Santos drove. The radio crackled with unusual static, forcing Miller to repeat their message several times. Every traffic light they passed flickered as the patrol car drove by. At the police station, Lisa was processed like any other arrestee. They took her fingerprints and photos, then placed her in a holding cell. The fluorescent light above her cell buzzed loudly and cast irregular shadows on the concrete walls. Captain Ron Hughes reviewed the arrest report with confusion. A decorated military veteran arrested for loitering in a coffee shop where she was a regular customer. The charges seemed thin at best. The complaint had come from an anonymous caller who claimed she was acting suspicious and probably up to something. Hughes had been a cop for 20 years and had learned to trust his instincts. Something about this arrest felt wrong. The woman had no criminal record, an exemplary military service history, and had cooperated completely. The coffee shop owner had even called to vouch for her character. In her cell, Lisa sat on the narrow bench and tried to make sense of what was happening. The electronic interference was getting stronger. She could hear the hum of every device in the building: computers, phones, security cameras, even the vending machine down the hall. It was as if she was becoming aware of a hidden network that surrounded her. The symbols appeared again, this time not on a screen but floating in the air before her eyes. They moved and shifted like living things, forming patterns that seemed almost familiar. Lisa reached out to touch them, but her hand passed through empty air. 30 minutes after her arrest, Lisa heard the sound of multiple vehicles arriving outside. Car doors slammed, and urgent voices echoed through the station. Heavy footsteps moved quickly down the corridor toward the holding cells. Something was about to change, and Lisa had a feeling that her life would never be the same again. The black SUVs arrived at the Austin Police Department with no sirens or flashing lights. They moved through traffic with quiet authority, their tinted windows revealing nothing of the passengers inside. 3 vehicles parked in perfect formation outside the main entrance. Agent Kevin Brooks stepped out of the lead vehicle and straightened his dark suit. He was tall and lean with sharp eyes that missed nothing. His partner, Agent Rachel Davis, emerged from the passenger side. She moved with the same controlled precision, her blonde hair pulled back in a tight bun. Both agents wore earpieces and carried themselves like people accustomed to being obeyed without question. 4 additional agents exited the other vehicles and took positions around the building perimeter. They wore similar dark suits and maintained constant radio contact with their team leaders. Passers-by on the street paused to watch the unusual display of federal presence. Inside the police station, Captain Hughes was reviewing Lisa's file when Officer Miller burst through his office door without knocking. "Captain, you need to see this," Miller said breathlessly. "There are federal agents here demanding to see the woman we just brought in." Hughes looked up from the paperwork with raised eyebrows. "Federal agents? What kind of federal agents?" "FBI, sir. At least that's what their badges say." "But they're not acting like regular FBI." Before Hughes could respond, his office door opened again. Brooks and Davis entered without invitation or permission. The captain started to object, but something about their presence made him hesitate. "Captain Hughes," Brooks said, producing a leather badge wallet. "Agent Brooks, FBI. This is Agent Davis. We need to speak with the individual you arrested at the coffee shop this morning." Hughes examined the badges carefully. They looked authentic, but something felt off about the whole situation. "On what authority?" "This is a local matter involving a minor loitering charge." Davis stepped forward and placed a sealed envelope on Hughes's desk. The envelope bore official seals and markings that Hughes had never seen before. The paper felt different too, heavier and more substantial than normal government documents. "Open it," Davis said simply. Hughes broke the seal and read the contents. His face grew pale as he processed the information. The document bore the signature of the Director of National Intelligence and referenced classified programs that Hughes had never heard of. More importantly, it granted the agents complete authority to take custody of Lisa Washington immediately. "I don't understand," Hughes said, looking up from the paper. "This woman is a veteran with no criminal record. She was arrested for loitering. What possible federal interest could there be?" "That's classified," Brooks replied. "We need her released to our custody immediately. No questions, no paperwork, no record that we were here." Down the hall in the holding area, Lisa felt the electronic interference reach a new level of intensity. Every light in the building flickered in unison. The security cameras stopped working, displaying only static on the monitoring screens. The coffee machine in the break room began dispensing hot coffee without anyone pressing any buttons. Sergeant Amy Foster, who was monitoring the holding cells, watched in amazement as her computer screen filled with the same strange symbols that had appeared at the coffee shop. They pulsed with soft blue light and seemed to move with purpose and intelligence. Lisa stood up in her cell and walked to the bars. She could sense something important happening in the building. The electronic network that she was somehow connected to buzzed with unusual activity. Phones were ringing in every office, but no one was on the other end of the calls. Back in the captain's office, Hughes was still trying to process the situation. Even if I wanted to comply, I need some kind of explanation. A decorated military veteran doesn't just become a federal priority without reason. Davis leaned forward and spoke in a low, serious tone. Captain, there are things happening in this world that are far beyond your clearance level. This woman is not what she appears to be. She is critical to national security in ways that you cannot imagine. What do you mean she's not what she appears to be? Hughes asked. She's been changed, Brooks said quietly. 3 years ago, during her final deployment, she was exposed to something that has been altering her on a cellular level. We've been monitoring her progress ever since. Miller, who had been listening from the doorway, spoke up. Changed how? What kind of exposure? The two agents exchanged glances. Davis nodded almost imperceptibly to her partner. The kind of exposure that happens when you encounter technology that isn't from Earth, Brooks said. The room fell silent. Hughes stared at the agents, trying to determine if they were serious or if this was some kind of elaborate practical joke. The expressions on their faces suggested they were completely serious. You're talking about aliens, Hughes said slowly. We're talking about first contact that happened 3 years ago in a classified military operation, Davis replied. Commander Washington was the only survivor of her unit. She was also the only one who was successfully integrated with the technology they encountered. The lights in the building flickered again, this time in a pattern that seemed almost like communication. The agents' radios crackled with static that sounded like whispered voices speaking in an unknown language. She's responding to our presence, Brooks observed, checking a small device that resembled a tablet, but displayed readings that looked nothing like normal electronics. Hughes stood up behind his desk. The situation was far beyond anything in his training or experience. If these agents were telling the truth, then his small police station was dealing with something of cosmic importance. If she's so important, why was she sitting in a coffee shop working on a laptop like a normal person? He asked. Because until recently she was dormant, Davis explained. The integration process takes years. She's only now beginning to manifest the abilities that make her valuable. The arrest this morning appears to have triggered an acceleration in her development. Down the hall, Lisa pressed her palms against the cell bars. The metal felt warm under her touch and began to vibrate with a low harmonic frequency. The locks on all the cell doors clicked open simultaneously. Foster's radio squawked with excited voices reporting malfunctions throughout the building. Every electronic system was either failing or displaying impossible readings. Captain, Foster's voice came over the intercom. You need to get down here right now. Something's happening with the prisoner. Brooks and Davis were already moving toward the door. We'll handle this, Captain. Your people need to stay back and let us do our job. As they walked quickly down the corridor toward the holding area, Hughes followed despite their warning. He needed to see what was happening to understand how his quiet Tuesday morning had turned into something out of a science fiction movie. They'd kill. Electronic interference grew stronger with each step they took toward Lisa's cell. The secure facility was located 30 miles outside of Austin, in what appeared to be an abandoned research complex. The drive had taken 45 minutes through increasingly rural roads. Lisa sat in the back seat of the SUV between two agents, watching the Texas landscape roll by through bulletproof windows. Agent Brooks had removed her handcuffs as soon as they left the police station, but Lisa knew she wasn't free to leave. The electronic interference had calmed somewhat during the drive, though she could still feel it humming beneath the surface of her consciousness like a sleeping animal. The facility looked ordinary from the outside, just another collection of concrete buildings surrounded by chain-link fence. But as they passed through 3 separate security checkpoints, Lisa realized this was no ordinary government installation. The guards carried weapons she didn't recognize, and the scanning equipment looked decades ahead of anything she had seen in the military. Inside the main building, they were met by a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and intelligent brown eyes. She wore a simple black suit but carried herself with the authority of someone accustomed to command. Commander Washington, the woman said, extending her hand. I'm Director Helen Carter. I've been looking forward to meeting you for a very long time. Lisa shook the offered hand and immediately felt a strange, tingling sensation. The electronic interference spiked briefly, causing the overhead lights to flicker. Director of what? Lisa asked. The Department of Xenobiological Affairs, Carter replied. We're the people who handle first contact situations and their aftermath. They walked through corridors lined with offices and laboratories. Through open doors, Lisa glimpsed equipment that looked more like something from a science fiction movie than a government facility. Scientists in white coats worked at stations that displayed three-dimensional holographic images and data, streams that moved through the air like living things. Carter led them into a conference room dominated by a large screen that currently showed a map of the world dotted with blinking lights. Each light was labeled with coordinates and dates spanning the past several decades. Please sit down, Carter said, gesturing to a chair at the head of the table. What I'm about to tell you will fundamentally change your understanding of reality. Lisa remained standing. I think my reality has been changing for months now. The headaches, the electronic glitches, the symbols that appear and disappear. You people have been watching me, haven't you? We have, Carter admitted. But not in the way you might think. We've been protecting you while waiting for the integration process to reach its current stage. Agent Davis activated the wall screen, which now displayed classified military files marked with Lisa's name and service record. But there were additional sections that Lisa had never seen before, containing medical data and incident reports from her final deployment. 3 years ago, your unit was conducting a routine patrol in a remote area of Afghanistan, Carter began. What your official records don't show is that you encountered a crashed spacecraft of non-terrestrial origin. The screen showed satellite imagery of a desert location with what appeared to be a metallic object, partially buried in sand and rock. The craft was sleek and curved, definitely not human in design. The initial response team found your unit unconscious around the crash site, Carter continued. 7 soldiers were dead from what appeared to be massive neurological trauma. 3 others survived but required complete memory modification to prevent psychological breakdown. Lisa felt her knees weaken and sank into the offered chair. Memory modification? Their minds couldn't process what they had experienced, Agent Brooks explained. The human brain isn't equipped to handle direct contact with advanced alien technology. Most people who are exposed either die immediately or suffer permanent psychological damage. But not you, Carter said, leaning forward. Your brain scan showed something completely different. Instead of rejecting the alien technology, your nervous system had begun integrating with it at the cellular level. The screen now showed brain scans and cellular analysis reports that Lisa couldn't fully understand, but she could see the differences between her results and those of her fellow soldiers. Where their brain activity had shown chaos and damage, hers displayed new patterns of neural connectivity. The technology you were exposed to contained microscopic machines called nanobiots, Carter explained. They're designed to interface with biological systems and enhance them. In most cases, they cause immediate death because the human body rejects them as foreign invaders. But my body didn't reject them, Lisa said quietly. Your body welcomed them, Davis added. Your unique neurological patterns made you compatible in a way that we've never seen before. You became the first successful human-alien hybrid in recorded history. Lisa stared at the brain scans on the screen. They showed activity in regions that normally remained dormant in humans. The patterns looked almost like a second consciousness overlaying her own. The nanobiots have been slowly rewriting your DNA and expanding your neural pathways, Carter continued. What you've been experiencing as electronic interference is actually your developing ability to interface directly with any computerized system. That's impossible, Lisa protested. Even as she felt the truth of the words resonating in her enhanced nervous system, Carter smiled for the first time since they had met. 3 years ago, we would have agreed with you, but you've been proving us wrong every day since your exposure. The headaches are growing pains as new neural pathways form. The symbols you've been seeing are part of the alien data storage system that's now integrated into your consciousness. Lisa stood up and walked to the window overlooking the facility's courtyard. Outside, she could see satellite dishes and communication arrays pointed at the sky. For the first time, she was consciously aware of the electronic signals flowing through all of them. Why are you telling me this now? She asked. Because the dormancy period is ending, Brooks said. Your arrest this morning triggered a massive spike in your abilities. Every electronic device within 100 yards of you was affected. And because we're not the only ones who know about you, Carter added gravely. Lisa turned back to face the group. What do you mean? The wall screen changed to show deep space telescope images of objects moving between stars. The objects were clearly artificial and enormous in scale. The species that created the technology inside you are called the Keepers, Carter explained. They're an ancient race that travels between worlds, uplifting worthy civilizations and protecting them from cosmic threats. They've been monitoring Earth for centuries, waiting for humanity to reach a certain level of development, Davis continued. Your successful integration was a signal to them that we might be ready for first contact. Lisa studied the images of the alien vessels. They were beautiful in their alien design, all flowing curves and surfaces that seemed to bend light around them. But there's a problem, Carter said. The Keepers aren't the only ones who received that signal. Other species are now aware of Earth's location and humanity's potential. Not all of them are friendly. The screen showed different images now, darker vessels with jagged edges and surfaces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Devourers, Brooks said quietly. They consume entire civilizations, stripping planets of all resources, including intelligent life. They've been expanding across this region of the galaxy for millennia. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. And they're coming here? Carter nodded grimly. Our deep space monitoring stations detected their fleet 6 months ago. They'll reach Earth in approximately 2 weeks. The Keepers have offered to help us, Davis added, but only if we can prove that humanity deserves their protection. That proof depends on you and the abilities you're developing. Lisa looked around the room at the faces of people who had been keeping this secret for 3 years. You're telling me that the survival of the human race depends on a woman who was arrested for loitering in a coffee shop? We're telling you that the survival of the human race depends on the woman who survived first contact with alien technology and emerged stronger than before, Carter replied. You're not just Lisa Washington anymore. You're humanity's bridge to a larger universe. Outside the window, the satellite dishes began turning slowly toward different points in the sky, responding to signals that only Lisa could now perceive. Dr. Alan Foster entered the conference room, carrying a tablet and wearing the slightly disheveled look of someone who had been working for 36 hours straight. His graying beard and thick-rimmed glasses gave him the appearance of a university professor, but Lisa could sense that his mind operated on a level far beyond normal academic research. Commander Washington, he said, setting his tablet on the table. I'm Dr. Foster, the lead xenobiologist on this project. I've been studying your condition since the day you were brought back from Afghanistan. Lisa looked at the man who had apparently been analyzing her transformation for 3 years without her knowledge. What exactly have you been studying? Foster activated his tablet, and the wall screen displayed a complex 3-dimensional model of human DNA alongside what appeared to be an alien equivalent. The 2 strands were slowly merging into something entirely new. The nanobiotes you were exposed to aren't just machines, Foster explained. They're a form of programmable matter that can rewrite biological systems at the genetic level. What makes your case unique is that instead of replacing your human DNA, they've been enhancing it. The screen showed microscopic images of Lisa's blood cells. They looked normal at first glance, but closer examination revealed tiny geometric structures embedded within the cellular walls. These nanobiots have been mapping your entire nervous system and creating new pathways for information processing. Foster continued. Your brain now has the capacity to interface directly with electronic systems and process data at speeds that approach quantum computing levels. Lisa studied the images of her transformed cells. How is that possible without killing me? Because the Keepers designed their technology to work symbiotically with biological systems, Carter interjected. They don't conquer or replace, they enhance and elevate. Foster pulled up another display showing brain activity patterns. Your neural activity has been increasing exponentially over the past 6 months. The arrest this morning appears to have triggered the final phase of integration. As if responding to his words, the lights in the room dimmed and brightened in a rhythmic pattern. Lisa felt a strange sensation, as if her consciousness was expanding beyond the boundaries of her physical body. It's happening again, she said quietly. What do you feel? Foster asked, monitoring readings on his tablet. I can sense every electronic device in this building, Lisa replied. Computers, phones, security systems. It's like they're all part of a network that I'm connected to. The wall screen flickered and began displaying information that no one had requested. Weather data, satellite feeds, Communication intercepts from around the world, all flowing across the display in real time. Lisa, Carter said carefully, I need you to try to focus on just this room. Don't let your awareness expand too far too quickly. But Lisa was already beyond such simple control. Her enhanced senses were reaching out through fiber optic cables and wireless signals, touching every connected device within a 50-mile radius. She could feel the vast network of human technology like a living organism, and she was becoming part of it. I can see Houston, she said, her voice taking on an odd, distant quality. Air traffic control, emergency services, traffic management systems, they're all connected. Foster watched his readings with growing excitement and concern. Her neural activity is off the charts. She's accessing systems that should be impossible to reach from here. Through her expanded awareness, Lisa began to perceive something else. Patterns in the data that shouldn't exist. Hidden messages embedded in routine communications, subtle alterations in satellite trajectories, and electronic signatures that felt distinctly non-human. They're already here, she said suddenly, her eyes focusing on Carter with startling intensity. Who's here? Carter asked. The Keepers. They have observation posts in orbit and monitoring stations scattered across the planet. They've been watching humanity for much longer than you know. The wall screen changed without any input from the people in the room. Instead of human data feeds, it now displayed images of sleek metallic structures hidden in remote locations around Earth. Underwater installations, Arctic research stations that weren't on any official maps, and orbital platforms that appeared invisible to conventional sensors. How are you accessing this information? Brooks asked. Because I'm not just human anymore, Lisa replied. The nanobiots aren't just enhancing my biology. They're connecting me to the Keeper network. I have access to their databases, their communication systems, their knowledge of human history. New images flowed across the screen. Ancient artifacts that had been dismissed as mythology, archaeological sites where Keeper technology had been buried for millennia, and historical events that had been subtly influenced by alien intervention. They've been guiding human development, Lisa continued, her voice carrying knowledge that wasn't her own. The internet, satellite communication, quantum computing, all of it has been nudged along by Keeper influence to prepare humanity for this moment. Foster was frantically taking notes on his tablet. The integration is accelerating beyond our projections. She's accessing information that should take years of gradual development to reach. Lisa stood up and walked to the center of the room. The air around her seemed to shimmer with barely visible energy. Dr. Foster, your projections were based on human understanding of the technology, but the nanobiots aren't following human rules. She extended her hand toward his tablet, and without physical contact, the device began displaying data that Foster had never seen before. Complete schematics of the alien nanobiot technology, detailed analyses of the integration process, and projections for Lisa's continued development. The Keepers designed this technology for their own species, Lisa explained. But they modified it for human biology when they realized we might be compatible. I'm not becoming like them, I'm becoming something new. A bridge between human and Keeper consciousness. Carter leaned forward in her chair. Lisa, what else can you see? What do the Keepers want from humanity? Lisa's awareness expanded further, touching communication relays that existed in dimensions beyond normal space. She could perceive conversations between Keeper vessels scattered throughout the galaxy, discussions about Earth and humanity's potential. They want partners, she said. For millions of years, they've been alone as the only known species, capable of what they call transcendent consciousness. The ability to merge biological intelligence with advanced technology. And now they've found that humans can do it too, Davis observed. Some humans, Lisa corrected. The integration process is extremely rare. Most people would die from the neural strain, but those who survive become something greater than either human or Keeper could achieve alone. The room fell silent as everyone processed the implications. Lisa was no longer just a person who had survived alien contact. She was evolution in action, representing humanity's potential future. There's something else, Lisa said, her expression growing serious. The Devourers aren't just coming to Earth for our resources. They're coming because they've detected the nanobiot integration. They view enhanced consciousness as a threat to their expansion across the galaxy. So they're coming to eliminate you specifically, Carter concluded. They're coming to eliminate the possibility of more humans like me. Lisa replied. If humanity develops transcendent consciousness on a larger scale, we become capable of stopping their expansion. That's why this moment is so critical. Foster looked up from his readings with amazement. Lisa, your brain is now processing information at rates that exceed our most advanced supercomputers. You're not just interfacing with technology, you're thinking like it. Lisa smiled for the first time since her arrest that morning. I'm thinking like something new, Dr. Foster. Something that's both human and more than human. Outside the facility, storm clouds were gathering despite the weather forecast calling for clear skies. The nanobiots were affecting more than just electronics. They were beginning to influence the very environment around Lisa as her abilities continued to grow. The communication began as a whisper in Lisa's enhanced consciousness. At first, she thought it was simply another data stream from the global network she could now access. But this signal was different, structured, intelligent, and definitely not human in origin. They're trying to contact me, Lisa announced, causing everyone in the conference room to freeze. Dr. Foster immediately activated his monitoring equipment, while Carter moved to the secure communication panel. Who's trying to contact you? The Keepers, Lisa replied, her eyes taking on a distant look. They've been monitoring my development, and now that the integration is nearly complete, they want to establish direct communication. The wall screen flickered and went dark for several seconds. When it came back online, it displayed a complex geometric pattern that seemed to shift and move with hypnotic precision. The pattern pulsed with the same rhythm as Lisa's heartbeat. I need to accept the connection, Lisa said. But I should warn you, this isn't going to be a normal conversation. Agent Brooks stepped forward with concern. Is it safe? Could they take control of your consciousness? Lisa considered the question, accessing information from the nanobiots that she was only beginning to understand. The technology was designed to enhance, not control, but once I open this communication channel, I'll be connected to a network of consciousness that spans multiple star systems. Carter made a quick decision. Do it. We need to know what they want and what they're willing to offer in return. Lisa nodded and closed her eyes, focusing on the alien signal that was growing stronger in her mind. The geometric pattern on the screen began rotating faster, and the air in the room seemed to vibrate with harmonic frequencies that were just barely audible. Suddenly, the pattern dissolved and was replaced by the image of a being that was clearly not human. The creature appeared humanoid in basic structure, but with elongated limbs and features that suggested evolution on a world with different gravity. Its skin had a metallic sheen and its eyes were large and multifaceted like cut gemstones. When it spoke, the voice came from speakers throughout the room, but Lisa knew the words were forming directly in her consciousness first. Greetings, Lisa Washington of Earth, the being said. I am Ambassador Zara 9 of the Keeper Collective. We have been waiting many cycles for one of your species to achieve successful integration. Foster frantically adjusted his recording equipment, while Carter leaned forward to address the alien directly. Ambassador Zara 9, I am Director Carter of Earth's Department of Xenobiological Affairs. We appreciate your contact, but we have many questions. The ambassador's multifaceted eyes shifted to focus on Carter, though Lisa sensed that its primary attention remained on her. Your questions are understandable, Director Carter. We will provide what information we can, but our primary concern is with the integrated one. Integrated one? Carter asked. Commander Washington has successfully merged human consciousness with our enhancement technology, Zara 9 explained. This makes her the first of her species to achieve what we call transcendent consciousness, awareness that extends beyond the limitations of a single biological form. Lisa opened her eyes and spoke for the first time since the connection began. You've been testing humanity for centuries, haven't you? Guiding our technological development to see if we could eventually handle your nanobiot technology. Correct, Zara 9 confirmed. Your species showed promise, but most biological forms cannot survive the integration process. We had to wait until human genetics evolved sufficiently to produce individuals capable of successful enhancement. Agent Davis stepped into the conversation. How many other species have you contacted? The ambassador paused, and Lisa could sense vast amounts of data being accessed across the Keeper network. In this region of the galaxy, 47 species have achieved spaceflight capability. Of those, only 3 have produced individuals capable of transcendent consciousness. What happened to the others? Foster asked. Some destroyed themselves through warfare before achieving the necessary technological base. Others chose isolation and rejected contact with the galactic community. A few were eliminated by the Devourers before they could reach full development. The mood in the room grew somber as the implications became clear. Zara 9 continued without prompting. The Devourers are a parasitic consciousness that spreads by consuming the life force of entire worlds. They view transcendent consciousness as an existential threat because it represents evolution beyond their ability to control or consume. Lisa felt a chill run through her enhanced nervous system. They're not just coming to destroy Earth, they're coming to prevent humanity from joining the galactic community. Precisely, Zara 9 confirmed. If humans develop transcendent consciousness on a larger scale, you become capable of resisting Devourer expansion. This is why your integration is so significant. You represent humanity's potential to become a guardian species. Carter moved closer to the screen. Guardian species? Those who have evolved beyond the need for physical resources and instead dedicate themselves to protecting developing civilizations, the ambassador explained. The Keeper Collective has served this role for millions of your years, but we are few in number compared to the threats that exist in this galaxy. Brooks asked the question that everyone was thinking. Can you help us fight the Devourers? Zara 9's expression, or what passed for expression in an alien face, became grave. We can provide knowledge and limited technological assistance, but the defense of Earth must ultimately come from humanity itself. This is the test that all potential guardian species must pass. Lisa stood up and approached the screen, feeling the connection with Zara 9 intensify. You're not here to save us. You're here to see if we can save ourselves. With guidance and support, yes, the ambassador confirmed. The technology within you represents just the beginning of what humans could become. But that evolution must be chosen freely and achieved through your own efforts. Foster looked up from his instruments with amazement. Lisa, your neural activity is synchronizing with patterns in the communication signal. You're not just talking to the ambassador, you're sharing consciousness with the entire Keeper network. Through her expanded awareness, Lisa could suddenly perceive the true scope of the galactic situation. She saw Devourer fleets that had consumed hundreds of worlds, leaving behind lifeless husks drifting through space. She witnessed the desperate last stands of civilizations that had fought and failed against the parasitic invasion. But she also saw hope, other species that had successfully achieved transcendent consciousness and now worked together to protect developing worlds. Ancient technologies that could turn the tide of battle if properly understood and applied. The Devourers will reach Earth in 13 days, Lisa said, her voice carrying information that came from deep space monitoring stations beyond human technology. They're bringing a harvest fleet designed to strip the planet of all biological matter within 72 hours. The room fell silent as the true scope of the threat became clear. However, Zara 9 added, humanity possesses something that most species lack when facing this threat. You have achieved global communication and coordination capabilities. If properly directed, your entire technological infrastructure could be converted into a planetary defense network. Lisa turned to face Carter and the others. They're offering to help us transform Earth's technology into something that can fight beings from another world. But the choice has to be ours. Carter took a deep breath before responding. What do you need from us, Ambassador? Zara 9's image smiled, a surprisingly human expression on an alien face. We need Lisa Washington to accept her role as humanity's first transcendent consciousness, and help us teach your species what they must know to survive. Lisa felt the weight of an entire world's future settling on her shoulders, but she also felt the strength that came from being more than human. I accept. The revelation came through deep space monitoring stations that humanity didn't even know existed. Lisa's consciousness, now fully integrated with the Keeper network, accessed sensor arrays positioned at the edge of the solar system. What she saw made her blood run cold despite the alien technology flowing through her. Veins, they're here, she announced to the emergency session that had been called in the White House Situation Room. President Susan Martinez sat at the head of the table, flanked by the Joint Chiefs of Staff and her top advisors. Director Carter and Dr. Foster had accompanied Lisa to Washington, along with Agents Brooks and Davis. General Peter Collins, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, leaned forward in his chair. What exactly are we looking at, Commander? Lisa closed her eyes and projected the sensor data onto the room's main display. The screen showed the outer reaches of the solar system, with dozens of massive objects moving in formation toward Earth. Each vessel was larger than anything humanity had ever built, their dark surfaces seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Devourer Harvest Fleet, Lisa explained. 47 ships carrying a total population of approximately 2 million parasitic entities. They've been traveling at near light speed for the past 6 months. President Martinez studied the display with the expression of someone trying to process an impossible situation. How long do we have?
11 days until they reach Earth's orbit, Lisa replied.
Once they arrive, they'll deploy harvester pods to every populated area on the planet simultaneously. Secretary of Defense Janet Murphy spoke up from across the table. What kind of weapons are we facing? Lisa accessed data from the Keeper archives. Information about previous Devourer attacks on other worlds. The images that filled her mind were horrifying. Entire cities drained of life in minutes. Landscapes turned to gray ash. Oceans boiled away to nothing. They don't use conventional weapons, she said. The Devourers consume life force directly. Their technology can drain the energy from all biological matter within a 50-mile radius in less than an hour. General Collins sat back in his chair with a grim expression. Our nuclear arsenal? Useless, Dr. Foster interjected, consulting data on his tablet. The Keeper archives show that conventional explosives, even nuclear weapons, have no effect on Devourer ships. Their hulls are composed of a material that converts destructive energy into fuel for their life drain systems. So what can stop them? President Martinez asked. Lisa opened her eyes and looked directly at the president. Transcendent consciousness. The same technology that transformed me can be used to create weapons and defenses that operate on principles the Devourers cannot counter. Ambassador Zara 9 had explained it during their initial contact. The Devourers were parasites that fed on primitive life energy, but they had no defense against consciousness that had evolved beyond purely biological limitations. A mind enhanced by Keeper technology could directly interfere with their feeding process and even turn their own systems against them. The problem is scale, Lisa continued. I'm only one person with these abilities. To defend the entire planet, we need to integrate Earth's technology with Keeper principles on a global level. General Collins pulled up tactical displays showing military installations around the world. What would that look like in practical terms? Lisa stood and approached the display, her enhanced senses automatically interfacing with the room's computer systems. The tactical maps changed to show communication networks, power grids, and satellite systems spanning the globe. Every connected device on Earth becomes part of a unified defense network, she explained. Cell towers, internet servers, power plants, military radar, all of it linked together and enhanced with Keeper technology. A global nervous system, Dr. Foster added, finally understanding the scope of what Lisa was proposing. President Martinez leaned forward with interest. How do we implement something like that in 11 days? We don't, Lisa said quietly. It's already been implemented. The room fell silent as everyone processed what she had just said. The Keepers have been gradually modifying Earth's technology for decades, Lisa explained. Every major advancement in computing and communication has included hidden subroutines that can be activated when needed. The internet, GPS satellites, cell phone networks, they're all equipped with dormant Keeper enhancements. Agent Brooks looked up from his secure tablet. You're saying our technology has been infiltrated? Not infiltrated, prepared, Lisa corrected. The Keepers knew this day would come. They've been getting humanity ready to defend itself. She gestured toward the wall display, and it changed to show a three-dimensional map of the world with millions of connection points linking every major population center. The network pulsed with data streams that looked almost organic in their complexity. I can activate the network, Lisa said, but once it's online, Earth's technology will never be the same again. We'll be connected to galactic communication systems and knowledge databases that span millions of years. Secretary Murphy raised a concern. What are the risks of this activation? Dr. Foster consulted his analysis of the Keeper technology. Based on what we know about the integration process, most people won't be directly affected. But individuals with certain neurological patterns might experience some level of enhancement similar to what Lisa went through. How many people? President Martinez asked. Lisa accessed statistical projections from the Keeper database. Approximately 1 in 10,000 humans have the neurological compatibility for basic integration. That means roughly 800,000 people worldwide could develop enhanced abilities. The implications were staggering. In a matter of days, humanity could go from a single planet species to being part of a galactic civilization, but only if they survived the immediate threat. General Collins brought the discussion back to the immediate crisis. Commander Washington, if we activate this network, what weapons will it give us against the Devourer fleet? Lisa closed her eyes again and reached out through the dormant network, feeling the potential that lay waiting in every connected device on the planet. The network won't create conventional weapons, General. It will turn Earth itself into a weapon. She projected new images onto the display. Power plants that could generate energy fields capable of disrupting Devourer technology. Communication arrays that could coordinate defensive actions across the planet instantly, and transportation systems that could move resources and people at speeds approaching those of the alien vessels. The Devourers are expecting to find a primitive world defended by isolated military forces, Lisa continued. Instead, they'll face a planet-wide consciousness that can think and react faster than their harvest fleet. President Martinez stood up, the weight of the decision clear on her face. What do you recommend, Commander? Lisa looked around the room at the faces of people who would help shape humanity's future. We activate the network immediately. We contact every world leader and explain the situation, and we prepare to fight a war unlike anything our species has ever faced. And if we lose? Secretary Murphy asked. Lisa's expression grew determined. Then we make sure the next species the Devourers encounter is better prepared than we were. Outside the White House, storm clouds continued to gather despite clear weather forecasts. The changes had already begun and there was no turning back. The global address began at exactly noon Eastern Time, broadcast simultaneously on every television, radio, and internet connection on Earth. President Martinez sat behind her desk in the Oval Office, but her words were being translated into every language in real time through the newly activated network. My fellow citizens of Earth, she began. Today I must inform you of a threat to our world unlike anything in human history. We are not alone in the universe, and we are about to be tested in ways we never imagined. Around the world, people stopped what they were doing to listen. In Tokyo, commuters on subway platforms watched on their phones. In London, workers gathered around televisions in office buildings. In Lagos, families crowded around radios in their homes. Lisa stood in a secure facility beneath the White House, her consciousness split between the physical world and the vast network she now controlled. Through millions of connected devices, she could feel the planet's reaction to the president's words: confusion, fear, disbelief, but also a growing sense of unity as humanity faced its greatest challenge. The person who will coordinate our planetary defense is Commander Lisa Washington, a decorated veteran who has become humanity's first enhanced human. President Martinez continued. She will explain what we face and what we must do to survive. Lisa appeared on screens worldwide, her image transmitted through the global network with perfect clarity. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone who had transcended normal human limitations. 10 days ago, I was arrested for loitering in a coffee shop, she began, bringing a touch of normalcy to an impossible situation. Today I stand before you as something new, a bridge between humanity and a larger universe filled with wonders and dangers beyond our imagination. She gestured, and the display behind her showed real-time images of the Devourer fleet approaching through space. The dark vessels moved in perfect formation, their alien geometry both beautiful and terrifying. These ships carry creatures that consume life itself, Lisa explained. They have destroyed hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. In 9 days, they will reach Earth with the intention of stripping our planet of all biological matter. The reaction was immediate and global. Stock markets crashed. Emergency services were overwhelmed with calls, and governments activated their highest alert levels. But through the network, Lisa could also sense something else: determination. Humanity had faced existential threats before and survived. General Collins appeared on the broadcast from the Pentagon. Every military installation on Earth is now connected to Commander Washington's defense network. Our weapon systems, radar arrays, and communication networks have been enhanced with technology that can fight these invaders on equal terms. In the facility beneath the White House, Dr. Foster monitored readings from around the world. Lisa were seeing the first signs of secondary integration. People with compatible neurological patterns are beginning to experience enhancement effects. Through the network, Lisa could feel them, thousands of individuals across the planet whose minds were adapting to the new technology. Scientists whose analytical abilities were expanding beyond normal human limits. Engineers who could suddenly perceive the quantum-level functioning of their equipment. Communication specialists who found themselves able to process data streams at impossible speeds. These new abilities are gifts, Lisa explained to the global audience. They represent humanity's next evolutionary step. Those experiencing changes should report to their nearest government facility for assistance and coordination. Dr. Nina Bell, a quantum physicist at CERN, was one of the first to experience the transformation. As she watched the broadcast in her laboratory, the equations she had been working on for years suddenly became clear. Her enhanced mind could perceive solutions to problems that had puzzled humanity's greatest scientists. "I can see it," she whispered to her colleagues. "The mathematical principles underlying the alien technology. It's all based on consciousness affecting quantum states at the macroscopic level." Similar scenes played out around the world. In Mumbai, a computer programmer named Raj Patel found himself able to interface directly with his systems, writing code at speeds that should have been impossible. In São Paulo, communications engineer Maria Santos discovered she could coordinate satellite networks across multiple continents with nothing more than focused thought. Lisa felt each new awakening through the network, humanity's collective intelligence expanding by the hour, but she also monitored the approaching threat through deep space sensors that painted an increasingly dire picture. The enemy fleet has begun deploying advanced scouts, she announced to the global command network that now linked every major military and government installation on Earth. Small vessels designed to test our defenses and identify optimal landing sites. President Martinez had relocated to the Secure Command Center, where world leaders appeared on screens as holograms generated by the enhanced network. Prime Minister James Richardson of the United Kingdom, Chancellor Angela Weber of Germany, President Chen Wei of China, all connected through technology that made their virtual presence feel completely real. Commander Washington, President Chen said, "Our military forces are ready to coordinate with your network, but our people are struggling to accept the reality of the situation." Lisa understood the challenge. Even with proof displayed on every screen in the world, accepting the existence of hostile aliens required a fundamental shift in human thinking. "The integration process affects more than individual minds," she explained. "It's changing our collective consciousness as a species. People will adapt faster than you think." She was right. Within hours, social media networks that had been filled with panic and conspiracy theories began showing something else. Organized groups of citizens working together to support the defense effort. Engineers sharing enhanced designs for defensive systems. Scientists collaborating on projects they had never thought possible. Artists creating works that inspired hope and determination. The network facilitated all of it, connecting human minds across geographical and cultural barriers in ways that had never been possible before. Lisa could feel the planet coming together as a unified entity, humanity transcending its divisions in the face of extinction. "The Devourers made one critical error," Lisa said during a strategy briefing with world leaders. "They assumed we would remain fragmented and primitive until they arrived. Instead, they're facing a species that has unified its consciousness and technology in a matter of days." General Collins studied tactical displays showing defensive preparations around the globe. "What are our chances, Commander?" Lisa accessed probability calculations from the Keeper database, factoring in humanity's rapid adaptation and the resources of the enhanced network. "Unknown. No species has ever achieved this level of integration in such a short time. We're beyond the scope of previous models. So we're writing the playbook as we go," President Martinez observed. "Exactly," Lisa confirmed. "But that might be our greatest advantage. The Devourers have conquered hundreds of worlds using the same tactics. They've never faced anything like what humanity is becoming." Through the network, she could feel the first enhanced humans taking their positions at defense installations around the world, pilots whose reaction times had been accelerated beyond normal limits. radar operators who could track individual objects in massive swarms of targets, command personnel who could coordinate multiple theaters of operation simultaneously. The global defense grid was coming online piece by piece, each component more advanced than anything Earth had possessed just days before. Orbital platforms that could generate energy fields spanning continents, ground-based arrays that turned the planet's magnetic field into a weapon, atmospheric processors that could create defensive barriers in the upper atmosphere. "We have 8 days to complete our preparations," Lisa announced. 8 days to prove that humanity deserves its place among the stars. As night fell across different parts of the Earth, the enhanced network continued its work. In the darkness, new technologies powered by human consciousness and alien science prepared to face an enemy that had never known defeat. The test was coming, and humanity would either emerge victorious or serve as a warning to future civilizations about the price of failure. The Devourer fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a plague of metallic locusts. 47 massive vessels, each one larger than a city, began their final approach toward the blue marble that hung in space like a jewel waiting to be consumed. Lisa stood in the global command center, her consciousness simultaneously present in thousands of locations around the world. Through the enhanced network, she could perceive the alien fleet through sensors that humanity had never known existed. The enemy ships moved in perfect formation, their dark hulls absorbing light and radiating the cold hunger of creatures that had devoured countless worlds. "All stations report ready," announced General Collins from his position at the unified command console. Around the chamber, holographic displays showed defensive installations on every continent, orbital platforms positioned throughout near-Earth space, and enhanced humans taking their positions at critical systems worldwide. President Martinez stood beside Lisa, her presence both commanding and reassuring to the millions of people watching the global broadcast. "Commander Washington, you have authorization to engage the enemy when ready." Lisa nodded, feeling the weight of an entire species' future in her enhanced consciousness. "Understood, Madam President. All defensive systems are online and coordinated through the network." The first surprise came when the Devourers began their standard approach. They had conquered hundreds of worlds using the same tactics. Overwhelming orbital bombardment followed by the deployment of harvester pods to drain all biological life. But as they moved within range of Earth's defenses, they encountered something they had never faced before. The planet's magnetic field suddenly strengthened and focused into concentrated beams that struck the lead vessels with the force of stellar phenomena. Ground-based arrays that looked like normal radio telescopes generated fields that disrupted the Devourer's navigation systems. Orbital platforms that had been launched in secret over the past week revealed themselves as weapons, capable of channeling the planet's entire energy output into focused attacks. Direct hits on 12 enemy vessels, reported Dr. Bell, from her enhanced position at the European Defense Coordination Center. Her consciousness, now expanded beyond normal human limits, could track hundreds of targets simultaneously while calculating optimal firing solutions. But the Devourers adapted quickly. Their ships began spreading into a wider formation, making individual targeting more difficult. Smaller scout vessels detached from the main fleet and streaked toward Earth's atmosphere, their mission to establish beachheads for the harvester pods. "Interceptor squadrons launching," announced Captain Steve Torres, one of the enhanced pilots now flying aircraft that merged human engineering with keeper technology. His fighter, along with hundreds of others, rose from bases around the world to meet the incoming scouts. The aerial battles that followed defied everything known about atmospheric combat. Human pilots with reaction times measured in microseconds engaged alien craft in dogfights that spanned continents. The enhanced network allowed perfect coordination between friendly forces while jamming enemy communications with signals that existed partially outside normal space-time. Lisa felt every engagement through the network, her consciousness touching the minds of pilots, gunners, and tactical coordinators around the globe. Through enhanced human Maria Santos in Sao Paulo, she coordinated South American air defenses. Through Raj Patel in Mumbai, she managed Asian satellite networks. Through hundreds of newly awakened minds, she turned Earth itself into a single, unified fighting organism. "Enemy harvester pods are beginning deployment," reported Agent Davis from the North American Command Center. "Massive objects separating from the main fleet and heading for major population centers." This was the critical moment. The harvester pods were designed to drain life force from entire regions in minutes. Previous civilizations had fallen when these devices reached planetary surfaces and began their terrible work. But Earth was ready with a defense no other world had ever attempted. Activating consciousness barrier, Lisa announced, her voice carrying across every enhanced human on the planet. The network that connected 800,000 enhanced minds suddenly flared with unified purpose. Every person whose consciousness had been expanded by the integration process focused their awareness on the incoming harvester pods. The combined force of enhanced human consciousness created fields of directed thought that the devourers could not penetrate or consume. The pods struck the barriers and simply stopped, their life-drain systems unable to function against minds that existed partially outside normal biological limitations. Some pods tried to land anyway, only to find their systems failing as enhanced humans on the ground turned the aliens' own technology against them. Impossible, transmitted a devourer, commander through frequencies that Lisa intercepted with ease. The primitives have achieved transcendent consciousness. The harvest cannot proceed. In space above Earth, the main devourer fleet found itself facing something unprecedented. The planet below was fighting back not just with weapons, but with coordinated consciousness that could predict and counter every tactical move. Enhanced humans working through the network disabled alien ships by rewriting their control systems. Orbital platforms generated fields that turned the vacuum of space itself into a weapon. Lisa felt the moment when the tide turned. The devourers, creatures that had conquered hundreds of worlds without ever facing serious resistance, suddenly found themselves outmatched by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Ships that had never retreated in millions of years began falling back toward the edge of the solar system. "All enemy vessels are withdrawing," reported General Collins with amazement in his voice. "I repeat, the Devourer fleet is in full retreat. Around the world, enhanced humans maintained their positions, ready to continue the fight if the enemy returned." But through the network, Lisa could sense the alien fleet's confusion and growing fear. They had encountered something beyond their understanding, a species that had achieved transcendent consciousness not over millions of years, but in a matter of days. "This is Ambassador Zara 9, came a transmission from the Keeper vessels that had remained hidden throughout the battle. "Congratulations, humanity. You have passed the test that qualifies your species for membership in the Galactic Council." The celebration was immediate and global. Cities erupted in cheers. World leaders embraced each other through holographic connections, and the enhanced humans who had made victory possible felt the satisfaction of abilities used in service of their entire species. But for Lisa, standing in the command center as the first human to achieve full transcendent consciousness, the victory represented something even greater. Humanity had proven that it could evolve beyond its limitations when faced with extinction. They had shown that consciousness itself could be a weapon against forces that seemed unstoppable. "What happens now?" President Martinez asked as the global command network began powering down from combat status. Lisa smiled, feeling the vast potential that lay ahead for her species. "Now we learn what it means to be part of a galactic civilization. We explore the stars, we help other species facing the same threats we just defeated, and we continue evolving into something greater than we ever imagined possible." 6 months later, Lisa stood before the United Nations General Assembly as Earth's first interstellar ambassador. The building had been modified with Keeper technology that allowed representatives from dozens of alien species to attend in person or through advanced holographic projection. Detective Santos and Officer Miller, the 2 police officers who had arrested her in that Austin coffee shop so long ago, now served as part of her security detail. It was a reminder that heroes could emerge from anywhere, and that sometimes the most important moments in history began with the most ordinary circumstances. "The woman we arrested for loitering," Santos said quietly to her partner as they watched Lisa address the assembly, "is now speaking for the entire human race." Miller shook his head in wonder. "Makes you think about how we judge people, doesn't it?" Around them, the assembly hall buzzed with translation devices handling dozens of alien languages as Lisa outlined humanity's vision for its role in the galactic community. Earth had become the newest member of an ancient alliance, dedicated to protecting developing civilizations and exploring the infinite possibilities of consciousness enhanced by technology. The Devourers, meanwhile, had retreated to distant regions of the galaxy, forced for the first time to confront the possibility that their expansion might not be unstoppable. Other species that had lived in fear of the Harvest Fleet began reaching out to Earth, hoping to learn the secret of humanity's rapid evolution. Lisa's story had become legend, the veteran arrested for suspicious behavior who became humanity's bridge to the stars. It served as a reminder that in a universe full of wonders and dangers, the greatest transformations often began with the most unexpected encounters. And in coffee shops around the world, people looked up from their laptops a little more often, wondering if the person at the next table might be the next human, destined to change the course of history.